Hey, what's up? Welcome to Coaching Success Radio. I'm actually really excited about today's show because we're going to explore what to do if you have a very narrow, specific niche that you think is really going to be difficult to try and attract clients to. How do you do it? I've got somebody here who's done very well with it, and she's going to share some of her secrets right after this. As I build my coaching business, I want to know how to effectively serve clients and make more money doing it. This podcast will pull back the curtain to reveal exactly how successful coaches are building their empires. Join me as I engage with top coaches from all over the world to discover their secrets. No theatrics and no theory, just real life strategy. My name is William Winterton, and this is Coaching Success Radio. So sometimes I get on the phone with somebody before I start working with them, and as I'm talking, and they're sharing their concerns about their coaching business and about how much money they wish they were making and how much money they're really not making. And they talk about how they're concerned that they just don't have the right niche. I'll never be able to make money doing what I do, helping people out of what I do. Here's the thing, if you solve a big enough problem, there's money in it. You don't have to be in real estate coaching or into some kind of like business coaching. It doesn't have to be like that. You can solve a specific problem, and if it's a big enough problem and people want to solve it, there's money to be made, and there's a lot of great reward and benefit in being in a super narrow niche. I want to share today a story. I brought in a great guest here, Miss Anza Goodbar. She was a business coach for a long time, but she started finding her passion helping couples reignite their love life as they got older. And it's really a very interesting story how she's able to carve out a niche and actually really do a very amazing job building her business out with this. I can't wait for you to hear this. You're going to want to take notes, listen to what she has to say, especially if you're in a niche where you're thinking that it's not possible. I'm here to tell you it is possible to make a great living and do exactly what it is you love and help people out. Here's Anza Goodbar. For just telling me what compelled you to become a coach in the first place.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to back that up just a little bit. Sure. I own a mortgage company, and in 2008, when everything crashed, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And we thought, my son and I were in business together. We thought that it was just going to be a little bubble and something was, going to go back to normal. And so I was like, I just need something to kind of tide me over until life goes back to normal in the real estate mortgage industry. And I had a friend who was a virtual assistant at that time, and she'd been pitching her services for us to hire a virtual assistant. And I thought, my gosh, that is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. I need a receptionist in my office to greet people when they come in. Sitting at home is not going to do me any good, right? So, all of a sudden when you're hit with a life crisis, anything has possibility, right? So I called my friend and I said, hey, can I do what you do? Do you think I've got the skill set? And she's like, oh yes. I thought, great, this will be great filler work. Again, life will go back to normal. Well, life didn't go back to normal. We lost everything. We lost the business. We lost our homes. We lost our cars, starting over. So within my first year of having my virtual assistant business, I thought, I had been an event planner, I had all this mortgage history. So I thought surely I'd be able to freelance and help out somebody in those industries. That isn't what happened. I ended up attracting people who were startups, brand new entrepreneurs wanting to figure out how to open their business. What kind of processes did they need? What kind of skill sets did they need? What resources, And so I really, even though I hung a shingle as a virtual assistant, was really coaching people in a business sense. Now, back in 2008, coaching was not a big industry. That was something with virtual assistants that was really a brand new thing. So I didn't think about myself as a coach, but for almost 10 years, that's what I really did, was help people figure out what they needed to do in their business. And as I was growing my business and working with entrepreneurs, I realized that you can have all the best systems, you can have all of the best products, but if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't love yourself, you're going to hold yourself back. You're not going to be willing to be visible. You're not going to take risks, and you're going to play small. So along the way, I decided I wanted to move to Belize.
Okay.
And so I picked up my daughter and my granddaughter and my laptop, and off we went on this wonderful adventure. Well, while I was in Belize, for whatever reason, I started attracting coaches into my business. And so I had all these coaches that were trying to figure out how to grow their business. What systems did they need? How could they be recognized? How could they stand apart? And as I was learning about their businesses and this whole idea of this mastermind group, it was like, man, I could work less and impact more people. I should coach and bring a group of people together rather than working with people one on one. And so I thought, well, I've been doing this thing, for 10 years now, but I really should be certified. I should know a little bit more about what I'm doing. So I started researching the best certification programs, and I came across a gentleman by the name of John Maxwell. And if you're into leadership at all, you know John has been around for years and years. Well, years ago, I worked at Focus on the Family, and John Maxwell and Dr. James Dobson are good friends. I had met John face to face, and I've been reading his books forever. And so I was like, that's who I need. There's credibility there. There's stability. That's something that I can get behind. And, I'm a huge proponent, especially for women in leadership, because we lead whether we think we do or not. And being able to lead ourselves first and then be able to lead the people in our organization and the people in our tribe is a huge asset when you're looking at coaching people and teaching them about how to be successful in their own business. So that's kind of the path that got me to where I am now.
So you would suggest anybody who's in coaching right now that certification is definitely not necessary to continue their business, but if they want to really develop themselves and be better. I mean, what was the biggest shift going from just doing what you're doing for all these years, just out of not even intentionally maybe, just and then going and intentionally becoming a certified coach? What was the biggest difference you noticed?
So the biggest shift for me was being able to ask better questions and really embracing the idea that, William, you are the expert on your life. I'm not the expert on your life. And so me asking you curious and probing questions so you can discover what the answer is inside of you versus me coming in, looking globally and saying, this is what you need to do to be successful. That was the biggest shift. And some people are looking for more of a consultant, and I do let people know that I work with. I can wear two hats. I can be that consultant for you, and I can look at the process side and say, look, these are the links that you're missing in your chain. But then when you're looking on the success and growth side, I really need to wear that coaching hat, and I need to be asking the right questions so you come to the answer that's going to be the solution for you.
That's excellent. And so basically what you're talking about your coaching, what exactly is your area of coaching that you, I guess, specialize in? If coaching or consulting, what do you prefer to?
Right. So this is probably going to shock you a little bit because we didn't talk about this before we got started, but I'm a sexual empowerment coach.
Yep. Okay.
And I work primarily with couples who are empty nesters, who have focused their life on raising their kids, building their career, and along the way, they kind of neglected their relationship and they've drifted apart. Sex doesn't happen very often, and when it does, it's kind of routine. So we talk about the skills that people need to get back together, to reconnect, to rebuild intimacy. And, as a byproduct, then the sex is more frequent and better. But also, when you get to be that age, hormones change our bodies. And there's erectile dysfunction. There is menopause issues with women. And so learning techniques and strategies to make our bodies respond in a physical way are things that we cover.
Which is awesome. And it actually, it's amazing because there really is, when you talk about coaching, there's really an unlimited type of coaching out there in consulting. So now the obvious question I think everybody's going to know is, how did that happen? How did you go from being a business coach to consultant? How did you find your niche in that? And I ask because it's so difficult right now for people to even figure out on their own, like, what am I doing? And so with somebody who's doing business coaching and maybe not super feeling like it's good, suddenly become a couple sexual health coach and never have seen that coming. How did that
So, I was working really hard trying to grow my coaching business. And growing my coaching business was very different than growing my virtual assistant business. And I wasn't standing out in the crowd, and I was burning the candle at both ends. Long story short, last year I got really sick. I came down with laryngitis that lasted for 28 days.
Oh my God.
And not even a whisper. I had bronchitis. I had croup. And immediately when I started feeling better, I got hit with vertigo. And I mean, my vertigo was so bad, I could hold my head in this position, and that was it for like 6 weeks. So between January and April, I couldn't work. I physically couldn't do it between not having a voice and just being, horribly sick. And so I was working with a coach, and I'm like, did I manifest this? What's going on? I have caught everything all at the same time. What are the odds? And so we really used that time to say, what's working in your life? What isn't working? Are you really happy doing what you're doing? And the answer was, I'm very good at what I do, but this isn't my passion. This isn't what really wakes me up at night. And so we started really exploring the things that lit my fire and the things that I felt really passionate about. And relationship is one of those things. And I had been going through a journey of kind of rectifying some of the baggage that I had been carrying. I was sexually abused as a child. And one of the things that I discovered through my previous year of coaching with my coach was I was using weight to feel safe and protected, to prevent sexual abuse from happening. And anytime that I felt like I had been inappropriately touched or talked to by a man, I would put on 50 pounds, bam, just so fast. And then I would feel safe, and then I would, take off the weight. And so we had been exploring, my cycle and what it was. And, that just kind of led to body issues, and how many women have body issues, and how does that affect their sex life, even with their husbands? How many women don't want to be seen? And so we started talking about that, and it just kind of evolved into, what impact can I make? How can I use my personal story and life experience to become relatable to other women? And as a byproduct, then it morphed into couples. And, one of the fun things that's come out of that is I used to be an event planner for 12 years. I did mega events of 10,000 plus people. I've done anything that you can possibly imagine, loved it. And so this year I'm launching couples retreats to take couples away to exotic vacations and focus on intimacy and their relationship and reconnecting and being able to recapture that passion and that drive that they had for each other when they first met, and being able to restore past hurts and get past some of our own baggage that we just bring with us because we're afraid to be vulnerable and really allow our spouse or partner, not everybody is married, to be able to really see who we are deep inside and get rid of that shame in our story and embrace who we are. Because, the more we love ourselves, the more we can receive love from our partner, the more we can love our partner. But then in our business, the more visible we can be and the more success we are going to be able to achieve because we believe that we deserve it. We believe that we're worthy of it. And that is, one of the biggest stumbling blocks that I found with the people that I had been working with over the years. And so I still work in, the business coaching side somewhat as a byproduct, okay, but that's not my primary focus anymore.
Tell me a little bit about creating this environment for to putting a couples retreat together. I think is a fantastic thing because you're kind of you're giving this next level service now to your clients, right? You can coach them at one level, but then if they opt into a higher ticket up your value ladder, then all of a sudden now they can go up. So how does that work? How, if somebody's able to build retreats or build events, what's some of the processes you went through with that?
Well, again, that was a lot of what my background was. And so I thought, and I did a lot of retreats when I was married. And couples conferences, and they were sterile. They were packed with hundreds of people. There was no privacy. You got your little workbook, you sat and you listened to the speaker, and, you took notes all day, and it was great, but there was no time really to connect. You know, you might have an assignment that you did together at the end of the evening, and then you came back and you were in this sterile hall, and it was all about buying books and resources in the bookstore and making money, right? And for some people, that really worked. I mean, it was great to get together and to go, and you got excited, but you didn't really have a transformation. And so what I really wanted to create was an environment that was conducive of coming together and experiencing romance, of experiencing intimacy. And so I looked at the things that I had experienced and wanted to up-level them and make it more practical. So we're going to go to Barbados in October, and we're going to go to a sandals resort that is brand new, and we are going to be in little bungalows that are totally private. You have your own little private wall, you have a private plunge pool, you have a soaker tub for two, you have a nice little eating area. So we're going to spend 2 hours together in the morning in a workshop discussing a particular topic. And then each couple will go back to their room or back to the beach, wherever they want to go, and work on an assignment together, just the two of them in private. Have time to have lunch, we're going to reconvene, do the same kind of thing. As part of the resort, there's all kinds of different water sports that are available. And so some of the exercises are actually going to include the amenities from the resort, so they work together as a team while having fun and doing, you know, water sports, being on the beach, being out in the sun. Because, you know, let's face it, marriage relationship happens a lot outside of the bedroom, and being able to have those shared experiences outside of the bedroom make the bedroom experience so much more fun. And then we're going to talk about different techniques that you can do to be able to give and receive pleasure in new and different ways. We're going to talk about, you know, age appropriate things with changes that happen in our body and strategies. But more importantly, we're going to talk about ways to communicate with each other that help us be non-judgmental and be able to share the things that we like about our sexual relationship, the things we'd like to improve about it, without, you know, our mate feeling dejected or rejected in any kind of way. But you will be shocked, but 70% of Americans are dissatisfied with their sexual relationship.
Wow.
That's a really big number. In the United States, 50% of marriages, and actually in Europe, 50% of the first marriage ends in divorce and doesn't usually last more than 8 years. Second marriages have a 67% divorce rate, and third marriages, it's like 76%.
Wow.
So, you know, moving on to the next marriage or the next relationship is not necessarily the answer. But if there are things that you can fix, and sexual incompatibility is high on the list of things that people don't think can be fixed. So if we can learn to have conversations, if we can open up communication, maybe there's a chance that we can beat the odds of that 50% divorce rate on your first marriage, you know. So many women in my age group in their 50s say, I have been incompatible sexually with my husband. I don't even want to be married anymore. I don't want him to touch me anymore. It's that bad. And it's like, you know, that can be fixed. That's a fixable thing, you know? So that's my goal, is to be able to, you know, provide meaningful content that's relevant to this particular group of people, give them an opportunity to go back and work on it together. Then let's talk about it. How did that go? What other tools do you need? And then I'm offering 2 coaching sessions for each couple. We're going to be limited to 5 couples on each event.
Right.
And then I can do some face-to-face one-on-one coaching. So if they run into a roadblock while they're there, let's talk about it. Let's do it in real time. Let's not wait until you go home and let's talk about it in 2 weeks or 4 weeks. Let's deal with it right now. Let's push through that barrier and get to the other side, because what's on the other side is so stinking fantastic.
This is a very intimate topic, right? And I'm not going to have people who are going to typically come up to you at a cocktail party and say, hey, you know, my wife and I are having issues, whatever, right? It's something. So most coaches that I've spoken with have something that people don't want to know about. In fact, most people don't want to tell you, I'm going to go see a coach or a consultant. That's just not something we tell in our everyday discussion. So
Right.
what have you found has been a really effective strategy for finding clients whenever you are looking for just the right people? And how do you find the right ones? And how do you tell this isn't somebody I want to work with or not want to work with?
Mm-hmm. So because of the nature of the topic that I deal with, you're right. That isn't something that you put on blast out there and people come lining up. It's still fairly taboo and people feel embarrassed or shameful about it. And so it's really just through having conversations. The best way that I find clients is one-on-one referrals, where somebody had a conversation with somebody who knows what I do and they're like, can I make an introduction? I know someone that can help you. The other way for me is content marketing. I do a lot of writing. I do a lot of guest blogging. I do a lot of podcasts. And people find out about me that way. And then through their own private way, they'll reach out to me either in a Facebook message or they'll send me an email. Some people will give me a call, but usually email is the easiest way for them to push back that fear, that embarrassment, and say, hey, I'm having some difficulty and we've gone to a therapist and that's not working for us. And we're desperate. What other options are there? And that's usually how I connect with people.
That's awesome, because I'm obviously producing content and making as much and publishing is going to be a great way to just assert yourself as the expert anyway. But it's also, generally speaking, it's free, right? You're not having to pay for Facebook ads or anything like that. So that's fantastic. What I want to ask is, as a coach, you mentioned before that you were talking to your own coach in consulting and doing this stuff. Do you recommend that everybody who is a coach has their own coach? Do you think that's important?
I do think it's important because we can get so in our head that we don't see the obstacles that are holding us back. And I love my coach. I had met her years before I actually hired her, and I had just kind of followed her. And one day she actually picked up the phone and called me and said, I really want to work with you. I think I can help you get to the next level. I've been watching what you're doing. And I was like, oh, what a great idea. And I had been kind of looking for a coach, but hadn't really found one. But we had such great chemistry that it really fit. And
so what, if you don't mind me asking, what is her area of expertise? Again, just looking as far as people getting coaches for themselves,
right.
Do you find somebody to help you just with your own inner game stuff? Do you have, or is it business coaching, structuring your business, or what kind of areas do you focus on?
So she is what she would call herself a life coach. She used to call herself a badass coach. And, she helps people bring out their inner badass is what she would say. But she works a lot with mindset, especially where it comes to money. Right. And, I never really thought that I had issues with money, but I found that I did have some limiting mindsets where it came to money. And I sometimes would play the blame game. So-and-so didn't do this, so therefore I couldn't do this, and it was their fault. And it was like, oh, wow, I didn't even realize I was doing that. And so she's really helped me embrace bigger dreams when it comes to making money. And, one of the things when I officially switched over to coaching, because it was such a different animal in growing business and becoming visible and being recognized and, being seen as an expert, I had this money mindset that I could make money selling events. I could make money selling mortgages. I could make money selling consulting services, but I can't make money being a coach. And it took me a little bit of time to work through and figure out what the root of that was. And so for me, that's what I really needed. I didn't need so much the business coach to say, hey, these are the systems, the processes, the tools that you need. I already knew that. For me, it was much more mindset and getting past some of my visibility issues. For a long time, I didn't want to do anything on video because I felt like I'm not digging my body. I don't think anyone else wants to see my body either with my little chubby self. And I had to get past, some of those fears of acceptance and possible rejection and just really embrace the fact that I am me. I'm the only me that there is. And I'm uniquely qualified to do this thing I've been called to do in a way that nobody else can do. And so it's okay that I don't fit the mold of being the blonde hair, blue eyed coach that, lives in San Diego and does business on the beach. It's okay.
Either, if that's any consolation, that's not
right.
Not,
it's all okay.
Yeah.
But, for a long time, I thought I need to have that, that image of that to be successful. And it was, she just called me out and she's like, it's a lie. You are believing a lie. And it took somebody else's eyes to be able to see that I was listening to that inner self-talk that was not necessarily helpful self-talk.
Excellent. So you absolutely agree that there's no way to do this business without having somebody to hold you accountable, not just, and it's your life coach stuff, but it's also just your business and your money. And it's everything that's going to slow you down and stop you. Just having a relationship is probably big enough to take you from where you are today doing this full time. And
yes. And, and I believe that everything is intrinsically connected. The mindset that we have affects our business. It affects our personal relationships. It affects our social relationships. It's all interconnected. It's like a big spider web. And so if we're having limiting mindsets in one area of our life, it's going to permeate and it's going to affect all areas of our life. And so being able to get to the root of that. And, and not only that, but I highly recommend being a part of a mastermind group. And there are so many different types of mastermind groups that are out there, but you need to be in community. You need to have the right circle of people around you who are not afraid to call you out on your stuff, but who are also there to cheer you on and encourage you to dream bigger dreams and, do that scary stuff to get to the other side and really experience the life that you want to design and create and live. Because, so many of us have family members, and I hear this all the time. What do you do when your spouse is not in your corner and saying, I told you you couldn't do this? When you hear your parents say, you really should have been a lawyer, you should have followed, the family tradition. This business could have been yours, but you're throwing everything away, and so you need to have that community that's going to say, yeah, you're doing big, scary stuff. Keep doing it. Look at the advances that you're making. Look at the growth you're experiencing, because it can be a lonely journey. And being an entrepreneur is not easy. There's ups and there's downs. And especially if you're running your business from your home and you're a solopreneur, you've got to have that community with other people to stay in forward momentum. It's crucial.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I think that's part of what makes you an entrepreneur, is that you just have to kind of go against the grain, and your whole life is solving problems, right? People I hear all the time are like, I've got issues. I got problems every day. I think, well, that's what you do. That is your job. You would be broke if there were no problems, right?
Yeah. You're chief problem solver. And, and John Maxwell even says you can do only so much alone, but you can create exponentially more when you're tied into community. And when you're tied into community, other opportunities open up for you to collaborate with other people, to get involved in front of other people's tribes. So it expands your reach. There's so many benefits that come from being in community with like-minded people.
Well, I appreciate it so much. I would love to know just a couple more things. What are some of the resources that people might be able to get from you? What, like your blog, and if you have a YouTube channel or a podcast, where can people hear more about you, and where can they contact you if they needed to or wanted to?
Sure. Well, they could reach out on my website. It's just www.anzagoodbar.com. If you'd like to know more about my retreats, the retreats have their own tab. I have a blog that you can tap into. I also run a mastermind group that it's an annual program where I work with people to help them design their best life. And we get into all of the things that we've been talking about today. In fact, we were talking last night. I was meeting with the groups, and some of the ladies in my group have been dealing with stress, headaches, and migraines. And so we talked about the benefits of orgasm and how orgasm can help you heal your headaches and not have to take drugs and not have to suffer through migraines. So there's so many fun things that we talk about to create your own life. And you can reach out to me. Email is just anza@anzagoodbar.com. There's also a contact form on my web. And you can pick up the phone and call if you want to do a phone call, 720-263-1800. And whenever I meet with people, I always offer a free complimentary, are we a good fit to sit down and talk. And we sit down and talk on Skype or on Zoom, just like you and I are today. So it's as close to face as you can be. I work with people all over the world. So geography doesn't have any borders in my business.
Isn't that great? I love that.
I know.
I just want to share. So for people who are watching this, who are maybe brand new in coaching, and this is like, they've just gotten started and gotten their feet wet. Just anything you would offer them as far as how to overcome some of the obstacles, any obstacle you may have been facing that might help them get through some kind of a tough time and tough challenge in their own business.
Sure. I think one of the most difficult things that brand new coaches have is figuring out how to market themselves, how to get out there. So many people think, the big name people are doing this and I need to do this too. And it doesn't sit well with everybody. Maybe you don't have all of the tech background. Maybe you don't have $10,000 a month to spend on, advertising, on people, on Infusionsoft or whatever. So I would say be in alignment with your values. I would say modify whatever you see out there to make it fit you. So if you don't like that direct sales approach, soften it up. Bring it into your own realm of your personality. Because if you're not comfortable with your own sales approach, people are going to experience that, and you're going to actually repel people from joining you in your business. So find a sales approach that feels really comfortable to you, and don't get caught up in, I have to do what everybody else is doing, because it may or may not work for you. Building a business is not always a cookie cutter process. It has to be customized to fit your values, your personality, your style. So don't be afraid to try something a little bit different. And, don't give up. Don't look at failure as a negative thing. Look at failure as the opportunity to grow and learn and modify things. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I have failed in figuring out my sales strategy for this particular niche. It has not been an easy thing to figure out because there's not that many people out there doing it. You just don't go up to people and say, hey, I'm a sex coach,
Right.
Want to talk, versus people at a networking event say, what do you do? Oh, I'm a business coach, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't play the same. And so, I had to figure out a lot of different ways to say what I do without making people afraid and giving them the space to feel open to talk and share. And, once that is, they're very curious about it, and then it's easy, but you just don't walk into it the same way that you would a business coach or a health coach or a mindset coach.
Wow, that was awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in and checking us out. New episodes are coming out every few days, including lots of conversations with massively successful coaches sharing their secrets with you. So be sure to subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel so that you don't miss out. And if you're looking for a way to start making serious money from your coaching, you need to check out my free training. It's at williamwinterton.com. I lay out the step-by-step on how to start making 5 figures a month in the next 60 days. Check it out, williamwinterton.com. I'll see you next time.